and welcome back to one of my day in the life chatty vlogs that has a theme. Today's theme is language planning and language scheduling. So by far the question I receive the most when I do language coaching is how can I plan a schedule? How can I plan my languages, especially if I'm learning more than 2 or 3? Let's get into the video about language planning. Some people say that I am they know me because of my language planning and scheduling. I think it's because my planning and scheduling videos do tend to get a lot of views, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's like the primary thing I do with language learning. I do get a lot of passive and active learning in. And contrary to popular belief, I don't just sit and plan things the whole time. Over the years, I have sort of refined and adjusted and adapted my planning techniques. This is kind of a day in my life vlog. If you're wondering where I am at the gas station to deposit some parcels. I have a little secondhand online store and I'm just gonna mail stuff. The music from this van is so loud. Oh, it is a vibe at the gas station. And then I am on the way to the Korean Cultural Center, where I'm gonna sit in their library and work on my thesis because I need a quiet, relaxing space to really just focus on getting my proposal done. So the very exciting news is that I'm going to Seoul and Tokyo next month. Yay! So happy to be traveling again. And I want to finish my proposal before I travel, so I really gotta grind. I'm at the Cultural Center on the way to the library. Look at this beautiful photo. They make it very nice. This center opened like 2-3 years ago. Guys, I'm so unfit. I love this library because they have like books for learning Korean and then books about Korean culture and travel, and unfortunately you can't check anything out, but it's just nice to be surrounded by like Korean everywhere. Oh my gosh, this is so nostalgic. This was my first Korean textbook ever. You can see by her like style, it's really old. Oh, what a memory. This book is amazing actually. For beginners, like it's really old, but it helped me so much. Amazing book. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna talk about is like language planning textbooks. So this removes the pressure from you to need to like create your own schedule. So a lot of Korean books like this Topic in 30 Days, they actually plan your study for you, so you don't need to worry about making a schedule, but they tell you like over here is day 13, they tell you the words you need to learn. They give you about 30 words a day, which I think is a lot. I think my brain can handle like 15 words a day. The phenomena of like a book that gives you a date schedule is something I haven't really seen outside of Korean and Japanese and Mandarin Chinese books. They tell you like this is your first week and you get to fill in like how many questions you did and how many you got right. This is like day number 3, week 1, again day number 3, day number 4, week 1. So it splits it up so that if you're preparing for an exam or something. So on that note of like planning for an exam, I have a Korean video, I think it's titled like How I Learned Korean Grammar, and I go into detail about the exact schedule that I created so that I could learn all of the grammar structures in the book I was using to prepare for the exam, so that I had the comfort of knowing that I understand all of the grammar points I need to know for a specific level in the exam. So you can check out that video if you want. So the one way of like scheduling your learning is to get a book that already plans it for you. I think these are okay, but I get a little bit overwhelmed when I like fall behind with a day or two, so I prefer to plan my own schedules. Okay, moving on from the books, I'm gonna go to my study space. Is this Yumino? 뭐지? Oh, it is him. Alright then. I met one of the staff. He recognized me from YouTube and we had a really nice conversation in Korean, but he doesn't want to be seen in front of my subscribers, so I couldn't film a section with him, but we had a nice like 20-minute chat just in Korean, which was very, very nice. It's refreshing to be able to like practice your speaking for once in a while. But I am so tired from my thesis. My proposal has to be handed in at the end of this month. And you guys know that I am really open about talking about my mental health on this channel. I don't think that it's taboo at all. So I want to give a big thank you to BetterHelp, who is the sponsor of this segment of the video. As some of you know, I used to live in Singapore for 3 years, and adjusting from South Africa to Singapore was like really challenging for me, especially my first workplace, which wasn't so good. So at that time, I actually signed up for BetterHelp and I got a therapist who could like adjust to my schedule and really help me through like the parts of my job and settling into a new country, which was difficult for me. And she was really, really kind and helpful, and we managed to like make a plan that really helped me to proceed with my life in a new way, in a new country. I haven't talked about this a lot, but I was also diagnosed with major depressive disorder about 8 years ago. But even if you don't have a mental health issue like depression or anxiety, I still recommend getting a therapist, because I think everybody needs at least a therapist in their life. So if you're just going through a tough time like us normal humans do, then I do recommend getting a therapist. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy affordable and accessible to everyone. Finding a therapist can almost be like dating. You need to find the perfect match. But with BetterHelp, you don't need to stress about finding the right therapist, because you can easily switch and find someone matched to you at no additional cost. So in my case in Singapore, mental health is still really, really stigmatized there, and it was very hard to find someone there. And that's why I opted for online therapy. My link, betterhelp.com/Lindie, is also available in the description. And it not only supports my channel, but gives you 10% off your first month with a therapist so that you can see if it works for you. So thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this segment. So now I'm just sitting in the courtyard. Let me talk a little bit about the 2 or 3 ways that I approach language scheduling. So the first way, and you can skip through this if you want because this is the most basic way, is calendar blocking. So this basically means looking at your schedule. I recommend just like Google Calendar, and looking at the times that you have available in the week and pre-scheduling in when you're able to work on language learning. But the one thing I do want to remind you of is that there's a difference between the time you have and the energy you have. So if you have like 1 hour a day to work on language learning, then you are probably not going to have an entire hour of energy every single day. You might just be able to focus for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and that's okay. But don't be overzealous with your scheduling. Just do a little bit. Start small, and then you'll see you might get into a flow state, and then you'll be really happy that you are going over what you scheduled, and that keeps you motivated a bit better. So calendar blocking and looking ahead at the week and saying, where do I have time to schedule my language learning, is the easiest and the first method that I recommend. But it doesn't really work for me, because I look at my calendar and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm the one who put this in here. I don't have to do it because no one's checking up on me. It's not a deadline I have. So if you're like me and you don't really work well with like a pre-planned thing, then I have another method for you, which is way better. Okay, the sun is really bright, so I just moved position and we have this nice Korean style background here. Okay, the second method of language planning is using a language planner, like a physical book, or you can do like a Excel spreadsheet if you're that type of person. But I like to use a physical book, and I do have a lot of videos about my language journals which you can look at. And this is kind of like calendar blocking, but you put it in your notebook, and then every single day you write what you did and then see at the end of the week what you accomplished. And this is really good because it gives you kind of like a visual view of what you are able to do in your language learning, kind of reporting back to yourself that I have done this. The method that works the most for me that I really want to recommend is kind of working backwards. So what I mean by that is at the start of a new week, like maybe Sunday or Monday, you sit down and make a list of language learning activities that are fun and easy for you to do. For example, listening to a podcast, reading a chapter of a book, completing a lesson, watching a YouTube video, talking to your tutor, or having a conversation with a friend. Something like that. Then you create your list. Let's say it's like 5, 6, or 7 items long. I keep it nice and short for the week. I could add much more if I want a bunch of ideas from. Try not to think of this as like a to-do list that you have to complete for the week, but think of it of more like an ideas list, so that when you sit down and you do have time and energy, you can be like, what do I feel like doing? I'll do this. Then you keep track of it and see what works for you. And then instead of planning ahead, like when am I going to watch a video, when am I going to listen to a podcast, you just have that list with you the whole time throughout the week. When you do have time, like an hour open or 30 minutes between meetings or something, then you pull out your list and you look at an item and say, okay, I have the energy or the capacity to do this thing right now. And that's really helpful because you're not planning ahead and putting stress on yourself that when you reach like your time block, you have to do something, but you have this pre-made list of things that are fun, so you don't sit down and wonder, what am I supposed to do now? Then you look back and say, okay, so from my list of 7 items, I was able to do like 4. Why is this? Like I could watch 3 videos and do 1 lesson, but I didn't touch grammar. Why is that? Then you analyze and you tweak. So is the grammar too hard for you? Is your resource boring? Is it not a skill that you want to focus on? So you really do some introspection and figure out why this specific task is not working. And then you can reformulate that task into a different way. Maybe getting a new resource, getting someone else to explain grammar to you, etc. 지금 한국 마트에 왔는데 그 옥수수 수연차 사러 왔어요. 여기 코코로 남아공에 있는 한국 마트. 되게 작은데 수염차 있을 것 같아요. 찾았어요. 저번에 왔을 때는 없었어요. 2병 살까? 이번에는 그냥 빨리빨리 갔다 왔어요. 저 이제 밀가루를 못 먹어서 만두랑 면 같은 거 못 사니까 그냥 제가 가장 좋아하는 옥수수 수염차를 샀어요. Speaking of mental health, the next stop on this day that just never ends is to collect my medicine at the pharmacy. 어제는 인터넷으로 약을 주문했는데 어제 확인하러 왔을 때는 아무것도 없대요. 그 주문도 못 본대요. 오늘 냈을 때 당신은 어제 인터넷으로 주문한 것 같은데요? 라고 답장을 했는데 근데 어제 왔을 때는 아무것도 없는데 오늘 왜 연락 없이 있는데요? 참. And they lock it in a little box so you don't walk out and steal the medicine. It was 1,082 rand with my discount for a month of medicine. It's so expensive. This is like what, like $100? Like $80 maybe? Yeah. That's the price you pay for poor mental health. The other thing that I was reminded of when going through my language journal from Singapore is that I used to track the hours of language learning I do, and then at the end of each quarter, I would draw, like fill in the squares of how much I learned, and each square would be an hour. In the first quarter, I did 6 Hungarian essays, which I wrote myself, obviously. And then I upped my Hungarian lessons from 30 minutes every second week to 45 minutes weekly. So on the note of tracking your hours, that was like a really nice visual way for me to see my progress. And if you like kind of like gamification, or you need to see things like this to help you stay motivated in your language learning, by all means, you can use an app like Toggle to track your hours, and it'll make a little pie chart for you, or you can do it on a spreadsheet or in a book like this. People ask about this book a lot. This is just the small A5 yearly planner from Muji, but you can just make it yourself. Like, it's just grid paper. But on the note of tracking your hours, just try not to have it be a blocker, or that's such tech language, try not to have it be like hindering your progress, in the sense that you're so focused on getting like a certain amount of hours. So that's what I mean by try out like a schedule for 2 weeks or something and see if it works for you. So try tracking your time for like 2 weeks, and then if it feels like too much pressure or not working for you, then just change it. Like, the only way you can find the best language learning method is to try a few and see what works for you. So I need to clean my room. Back in Singapore, it was beneficial for me to track my hours. Number one, because this was during lockdown and I had so much time on my hands, so I could study more, and I wanted to see how much can I study with a full-time job and tracking hours. And number two, I had this fun journal and grid paper to do it on. And now, moving back to South Africa, I don't have as many like cute notebooks to do my stuff in, and you know, it's really busy with my master's, so I don't track my hours. Tracking hours worked for me in a certain period of my life, whereas now it might bring extra stress into my life. So I just prefer doing language learning activities when I feel like it, which is again what I just talked about earlier, the list method. So writing out a bunch of activities that I want to do, and then doing them when I have the time, and at the end reviewing and saying, what was I able to do this week or not.
For words that I didn't know what that word meant.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that they were the same meaning. So like, I feel like
theming your content and your vocabulary is such a good way to learn it. So what I like to do is pick out a theme.
To jump in again, I'm going to be taking Chinese or Mandarin when I start university.
The growing trend is designers who can leverage AI. So it's staying afloat of all the trends and updating yourself and educating yourself to keep your worth as a designer. Well, thank you so much for watching. It was really nice chatting to you, and I hope the video was helpful. And as usual, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!